Okay folks, buckle up. Today on the Mysteria Archive, we take a look at whether the elites are fighting over reality and are we in a timeline war? Get ready for a wild ride. It's late. You're scrolling your feed, half distracted. When a headline catches your eye, time is running out. But whose time? Yours, mine, or reality's? If reality really is a kind of program, then who's holding the admin password? Governments with their classified archives? Scientists smashing particles under Swiss mountains? Or maybe it's not people at all. Maybe it's algorithms, quietly deciding what you remember, what you forget, and what never existed in the first place. This isn't just philosophy. Our reality, what's official, what's true, what happened, depends on fragile things. Clocks, calendars, archives, databases, and servers. Whoever controls those controls reality's version history. And if that's true, then maybe we're not living in a timeline at all. Maybe we're living in a war over timelines. One fought not with bombs, but with edits. So tonight, we're going to pull the thread, because if the fabric of reality can be patched, rolled back, or rewritten, then the only real question is who's doing it and why. All right, pause. So we're starting off with the whole reality is a program idea, which, if you're like me, immediately makes you want to check if your life has patch notes, like fixed bug where socks vanish in the dryer, added feature, Wi-Fi anxiety. But seriously, it's already wild to think reality isn't some mystical force, but a system running on infrastructure, clocks, records, servers. And if someone can tweak that system, then yeah, they can effectively edit the past or rewrite the present. Which, by the way, sounds less like a science lecture and more like the worst terms of service update ever. So let's see how deep this rabbit hole goes. The strange case of Timekeepers and Records. Reality doesn't just happen. It's measured, logged, synchronized. It runs on infrastructure we rarely notice: clocks, calendars, ledgers, and archives. These aren't background details. They're the scaffolding that holds the story of the world together. Take leap seconds, for instance. Every few years, scientists literally stop the entire planet for a single tick, inserting a second to keep our clocks aligned with Earth's wobble. Or daylight savings, where governments declare tonight reality jumps forward an hour, try not to be late for work. And then there's the great calendar edits of history. In the 16th century, Pope Gregory ordered entire days deleted from October to fix the drift in the Julian calendar. People went to bed on October the 4th and woke up on October the 15th, 10 days gone. Imagine trying to explain that on a time card. Even units of measurement aren't immune. Until 2019, the kilogram was defined by a single lump of metal locked in a vault in France. Whoever controlled that artifact, in a sense, controlled mass itself. Now it's tied to physical constants, but constants we still only know because we agreed on how to measure them. Records can shift too. Freedom of information requests sometimes come back with redacted timestamps that don't line up. Archives quietly update digital documents. Dead links pile up, erasing sources, and robot text files can make entire websites disappear from search as if they never existed at all. And then there's the tech backbone. GPS and atomic time servers. They're not just for telling you if you're late. They anchor global finance, internet security, even blockchain. Compromise those, and you don't just mess up someone's clock, you desynchronize reality's ledger. So, if you think time is a natural force, think again. Time is managed, time is patched, and sometimes time is deleted. Okay, so let me get this straight. We've been deleting days, pausing the planet, and outsourcing reality to some atomic clock in Colorado, and nobody thought that sounded shady. Like, who decided October the 5th through 14th, 1582 just didn't need to exist? Were people mad they missed their birthdays? And the leap second thing blows my mind. Imagine telling your boss, yeah, I was late because time literally glitched. But the scariest bit is GPS, because if you mess with GPS time, banks don't know what order transactions happened in. Stocks, crypto, even your phone certificate, gone. Basically, one bad line of code and we're all living in Back to the Future Part 4. Reality isn't just fragile, it's practically running on Windows 95. Psychological warfare and memory manipulation. If you want to win a war, you don't always need tanks, planes, or even soldiers. Sometimes all you need is the story. During the Cold War, governments didn't just compete with missiles, they competed with perception. Think about MKUltra, where the CIA secretly tested drugs, hypnosis, and psychological conditioning to see if minds could be rewritten like floppy disks. Or the Soviets' experiments with parapsychology and remote viewing, searching for ways to see beyond the limits of space and time. But memory doesn't need chemicals or clairvoyance to be manipulated. It just needs a framework. Media theorists call it agenda setting. The way newspapers, television, and now social feeds decide not only what we think about, but how we think about it. Now, repetition is key. Say something often enough, and it hardens into fact. Change the context around an event, and you can tilt the emotional weight of history without altering a single date. Entire generations grow up with curated archives, edited footage, and textbook pages that quietly omit inconvenient truths. This is how you simulate a timeline shift without bending physics. You don't alter atoms, you alter perception. Imagine waking up one morning to find that the country you live in has always been at war with another, because that's what the papers say. Imagine logging online and seeing the same story over and over, until even the skeptics begin to wonder if they are the ones who misremembered. If reality is anchored in collective agreement, then manipulating that agreement is the closest thing we have to rewriting time. And unlike particle physics or time machines, this kind of reality edit doesn't require billion-dollar labs, just headlines. Okay, so quick pause. I love how governments are like, sorry folks, we can't afford to fix potholes, but we can find a program to see if Larry from accounting can bend spoons with his brain. Priorities, right? But here's the creepy part. Now, this isn't just history, it still happens. Every scroll, every feed, every headline is someone fighting to anchor your sense of reality. It's like everyone's playing tug of war with your brain, and you didn't even know you were holding the rope. So yeah, forget time travel. If you can frame, repeat, and curate, you don't need to build a time machine. You just convince people that the past and the present are whatever you say they are. Kind of like marketing, but with scarier consequences. Quantum frontiers and CERN. If perception is one battlefield, physics is another. And nothing has fueled more timeline war speculation than a machine buried under the Franco-Swiss border, the Large Hadron Collider. At its core, CERN's collider is just a tool to smash particles together at nearly the speed of light. Scientists use it to study the fundamental building blocks of reality. But when the Higgs boson, nicknamed a God particle, was discovered in 2012, conspiracy theories exploded almost as fast as the protons. Some claim the collider isn't just studying particles, but bending the seams of space-time itself. That experiments like the delayed choice quantum eraser or Bell's inequality test hint at multiple realities coexisting, timelines waiting to be chosen. To physicists, these experiments are about probability, correlation, and quantum weirdness. But to the public, they sound like the universe is running on multiple save files, and someone at CERN might be hitting load gain. Of course, peer-reviewed science has boundaries. The collider isn't opening portals to another world, and scientists aren't slipping through dimensions on their lunch break. But the fact that respected theories like the many worlds interpretation exist only adds fuel to the fire. And here's the kicker. Even scientists admit they don't fully understand what consciousness has to do with observation. Does reality exist independently, or does it crystallize only when measured? That's the kind of question that makes CERN feel less like a laboratory and more like a control panel for timelines. All right, so CERN. Now, depending on who you ask, it's either the world's most advanced science project or a Bond villain lair that occasionally eats timelines for breakfast. Now, scientists say, relax, we're just smashing particles together. But let's be real. When someone says, don't worry, we're poking reality with the biggest stick in human history, that's not exactly comforting. And the many worlds thing, come on. If every decision creates a new timeline, somewhere out there is a version of me who remembered to hit the gym. Poor guy. But that's what makes this fascinating. Even the experts admit quantum physics is strange and we don't fully understand it. Which means, for all we know, maybe timeline tinkering is less science fiction and more of a side effect. Intentional versus accidental glitches. Not every disruption in reality is grand or mysterious. Some are just bugs. Think about the infamous Y2K scare. At the turn of the millennium, billions of dollars were spent fixing a simple oversight. Programmers had used 2 digits for the year instead of 4. January 1st, 2000, threatened to roll the world back to 1900. Banks, airlines, even nuclear facilities braced for chaos. The world didn't end, but it was a reminder that our timeline runs on fragile code. And it's not the only one. In 1999, GPS satellites experienced a weak rollover error, shifting timestamps and confusing devices worldwide. It was fixed in a few hours, but for a brief moment, the world's clocks disagreed. Now imagine stock markets or air traffic running on the wrong second. That's not just a bug, that is a glitch in consensus reality. But here's where it gets darker. Now, some glitches aren't accidents at all. Information can be redacted, archived, or simply deleted. Now, history can be rewritten through curriculum choices, whole events shrinking to a footnote, while others dominate textbooks. Online, algorithms push some stories forward while burying others so deep they might as well have never existed at all. Even updating an article can act like a quiet patch, changing how the past is remembered. In the digital age, edits don't leave smudges in ink. They overwrite cleanly, leaving no trace. So, here's the question. When something disappears from the record, was it a crash in the system, or was someone editing the timeline on purpose? Alright, so basically, sometimes reality glitches because somebody fat-fingered the code, and sometimes it glitches because somebody wanted it to. And the Y2K thing is my favourite. Imagine explaining to future generations that we nearly ended civilization because programmers were lazy with their calendar entries. Like, that's how fragile our timeline is. But the intentional side, that's trickier, because if an event disappears from your newsfeed, is that the algorithm messing up, or somebody making sure you didn't see it? That's not just a glitch, that's a stealthy edit. And honestly, it makes me wonder if somewhere out there there's a cosmic IT guy patching history with release notes like, fixed inconvenient facts, improved narrative stability. Historical shadows of timeline wars. Timeline edits didn't start with computers. History itself is littered with revisions, erasures, and mysterious gaps. Take the great calendar reforms of Europe. In 1582, Pope Gregory XIII's adjustment to the Julian calendar deleted 10 entire days. People went to sleep on October the 4th and woke up on October the 15th. Riots broke out in parts of Europe. Citizens accused the church of stealing time from their lives. Or consider ancient dynasties that vanish from records. Egyptologists still debate phantom rulers, erased by successors who wanted their reigns forgotten. The same with the Roman damnatio memoriae, where emperors literally ordered names and faces chiseled out of stone, as if they had never existed. And then there are the stranger tales, the Versailles time slip, where 2 women claim to stumble into the 1700s. Folklore from across the world tells of missing villages, phantom battles, and travellers stepping briefly into another era before snapping back. Are these myths or memories of timeline edits we can't explain? What's clear is this: whoever controls the ledger controls the story. Conquerors have always rewritten borders, maps, and origin myths to suit their narrative. If history is a shared Google Doc, then the winners are the ones who always had edit access. Every civilization has left behind gaps. Eras missing, dynasties erased, chronicles rewritten. Were these accidents of time, or deliberate edits in an ongoing timeline war? Okay, so deleting 10 days from history. That's not a calendar fix, that's the original version of hitting backspace. Can you imagine birthdays? Like, sorry, your birthday was erased this year, we'll pencil it back in next time. And the chiseled out names. That's just ancient Photoshop. Don't like the emperor? Boom, gone. But the weird folklore, that's the part that really sticks. Villages vanishing, people stepping through time. It sounds like ghost stories, sure, but when those tales line up across cultures, you start to wonder. Maybe history isn't just messy, maybe it's been actively pruned. If the winners wrote the history books, maybe they also wrote the timeline itself. And that's the kind of thought that makes you side-eye your wall calendar. The human element, whistleblowers and thinkers. For all the technology, codes and algorithms that seem to shape reality, sometimes the loudest hints come not from machines, but from people. Writers, whistleblowers, and thinkers have long suggested that reality isn't as fixed as we'd like to believe. Take Philip K. Dick. the science fiction author whose books inspired Blade Runner and Minority Report. At a 1977 lecture, Dick told his audience he was convinced the world we live in had been edited before, shuffled between parallel versions of history like a library with missing pages. And he wasn't alone. Nick Bostrom's simulation hypothesis took the idea mainstream. If advanced civilizations could run simulations, what are the odds we're not already in one? Then there are the researchers who explore reality engineering, not through fantasy, but through manipulating physics, data, and even the human narrative. And beyond the intellectuals, you find the so-called insiders, ex-military personnel, scientists who claim suppressed knowledge, and conspiracy-adjacent voices who insist they've glimpsed the machinery behind the curtain. Are they truth-tellers, or just noise layered with half-truths and theatre? The unsettling part is that many of their stories rhyme. Accounts of missing time, sudden reality shifts, or technology capable of altering perception at scale. Even when you dismiss half of it, the pattern lingers. If timelines are being engineered, or fought over, then maybe the war isn't hidden in CERN tunnels or dusty archives. Maybe it's hiding in plain sight, in the voices of people dismissed as dreamers, cranks, or storytellers. You ever notice how sci-fi writers always sound like they're reporting from the future rather than just making stuff up? Now, Philip K. Dick basically stood up in the 70s and said, "Guys, I think we've already had a software update on reality." That's either brilliant or the weirdest icebreaker ever. And the Whistleblowers, it's a mixed bag. Some are fascinating, some sound like they're one bad cup of coffee away from launching a YouTube channel of their own. But you can't ignore how often their stories overlap. Even if half of them are nonsense, the other half is enough to keep you up at night. So maybe, just maybe, the truth really is stranger than fiction, especially when it's coming from the people who wrote the fiction in the first place. The battle for perception. If there really is a timeline war, the battlefield might not look like we imagine. It's not soldiers with weapons. It's not scientists colliding particles until universes split. It's something quieter, something more ordinary. Perception. Reality isn't just what happens, it's what we agree happened. That agreement is built in classrooms, newsrooms, search engines, and archives. Whoever decides what's searchable, teachable, or credible is functionally the editor of reality itself. And increasingly, those editors aren't people, they are algorithms, recommendation engines that surface some stories while burying others. AI summaries that reframe events into bite-sized, digestible versions of history. Moderation filters that quietly remove inconvenient narratives. The scary part? Algorithms don't need malice. They just need skewed data or biased design. A machine trained to optimize clicks could end up reshaping public memory without ever intending to. But if someone wanted to tilt the scales, that's power hidden inside the code. Imagine waking up one morning in a version of reality where the wrong story never trended, the wrong books never showed up in your search, and the wrong archives quietly vanished. Not because a shadowy figure erased them with a red pen, but because the algorithm never thought they were relevant. If elites wanted to fight over timelines, they might not need to touch space-time itself. They just need to tweak the filters. And in a world run by feeds and metrics, maybe that's the cleanest way to win a war. See, this is the part that freaks me out, because it's not lasers, portals, or men in black. It's way scarier. It's the invisible stuff, what shows up in your feed, what doesn't. You don't need to erase history if you can just make sure nobody clicks on it. And the kicker? Half the time it's not even a conspiracy. It's just the algorithm optimizing for cat videos and celebrity gossip. Which means we're basically at the mercy of code written by people who still need tech support to set up their Wi-Fi. So yeah, maybe the timeline war isn't fought in particle accelerators or secret bunkers. Maybe it's happening right now, and we're all scrolling through the battlefield. Closing thoughts. So, after all this, where does that leave us? The story of the timeline war isn't about time machines, glowing portals, or cinematic battles across alternate realities. It's subtler. It's fought in standards, in archives, in algorithms, and in the stories we tell ourselves about the past. Think about it. Clocks can slip. Standards can reset. Archives can vanish or be quietly rewritten. A history book can drop a chapter, a search engine can hide a result, an algorithm can decide your feed doesn't need to see that story. And these aren't dramatic events, but together, they bend the edges of what we agree is real. That doesn't mean reality itself is crumbling, but it does mean consensus is fragile. Now, if perception is the battlefield, then every one of us is a potential combatant, deciding what we believe, what we share, what we archive, and what we let fade away. Maybe elites really are tugging at the threads, shaping narratives for power. Or maybe the machinery of modern life, our tech, our data, our records, just makes it easier for reality to feel slippery. Either way, the best defense is curiosity. Ask questions, seek primary sources, cross-check the records, because whether this is a war, a glitch, or just the messy business of history, the act of questioning sharpens our grip on reality. And in a world where perception can be edited, maybe curiosity itself is the strongest anchor we have. Okay, so here's my takeaway. Reality probably isn't being rebooted every Thursday like Windows 95, but the stories we're told, those can absolutely be patched, updated, or quietly uninstalled. And let's be honest, most of us wouldn't even notice. Now, the good news is you don't need a particle accelerator or a spy agency to fight back. You just need a little healthy skepticism and maybe a habit of double-checking things before you hit share. So no, you're not powerless in a timeline war. You're part of it. And maybe the best weapon is not letting anyone else do your thinking for you. Now, if you're one of the lucky few to have the hype button below, please smash it 3 times and it will help boost this video. I'd really appreciate it as we're chasing down 100,000 subs. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this one. And don't forget to let me know in the comments below of videos you would like to see next. Okay, my friends, be safe. And until next time, stay curious.